Okay, Backlash review. This pay-per-view was so close to being a very, very good pay-per-view. But for me, they just threw it all away at the end. For those of you who don't know, what I'm talking about is the Big Show comes out at the end of the last man standing match between Edge and Cena and ruins what was a brilliant match and what was a brilliant pay-per-view. Ruins it. I mean, up to that point, everything had been going well for me, right? Think of it this way. At the start of the night, the champions were Triple H, John Cena, Jack Swagger. At the end of the night, the champions were Randy Orton, Edge, Christian. Now, that for me is a fucking good night at the races, to replace those three guys with those three guys. Yeah, but the WWE had to go and ruin it. Why can't Edge just win a match clean? I mean, I know he's the ultimate opportunist and all that Michael Cole crap, but, you know, I mean, it's a last man standing match. You're allowed to be devious in that sort of match anyway. It's ridiculous. It just made SmackDown look weak. Now SmackDown's champion can't beat John Cena. The only person who can beat John Cena is the Big Show, who's the giant on Raw. Fuck off. Anyway, let's start at the beginning, because this pay-per-view started really well for me. We had Michael Cole, Jerry the King Lawler, and Jim Ross in commentary. So of course the first match they give us is the ECW title match between Christian and Swagger, which of course is the only match that these guys don't care about at all. But yeah, they still did a good job on commentary. There's a lot of signs saying they're the number one peep. Just for the record, I'm the number one peep. No contest. This was a good match. Swagger starts off doing his amateur stuff. Christian starts roughing him up. Then Swagger does a beautiful military press slam, just throws Christian out of the ring. And Christian starts selling a rib injury. That military press slam was another example of how Christian just lets Swagger look good. You know, lets Swagger do more to him than he gets to do to any other wrestler, which was just really good. Then Swagger works the ribs. He does a sort of vaguely sexual bear hug, which was sinister. And then he goes for a Vader bomb, and the commentators describe that as him going outside his comfort zone, the sort of amateur wrestling, which I thought that was a good commentary touch. Lots of good interchanges, you know, some sloppy interchanges, but lots of good sort of reversals and stuff in this match. There's a good bit where Swagger reverses a tornado DDT, but Christian ends up doing a sunset flip anyway, you know, and lots of good sort of pinning combinations by Christian that really got the crowd into it. The end of the match comes when Swagger gets frustrated that he can't put Christian away, so he starts pulling off the turnbuckle pad. On the other end of the ring, Christian does the same thing. Swagger runs into the exposed turnbuckle, and Christian pulls the kill switch, if you will, and that is that. Good match. Sure, Christian had to win by cheating, but, you know, they sort of put it over as him being a wily veteran, you know, knowing what he's doing. Kind of what they were talking about Steamboat in the next match. And, you know, I like that angle, and, you know, I'm glad that Christian's champion. And you don't want to make Swagger look weak. He's a good wrestler. He proves it when he's in the ring with someone as good as Christian. So, yeah. Then we go backstage, and Christian's getting congratulated by ECW's finest, i.e. Tommy Dreamer and Finlay. And then Christian looks off into the distance and at someone, and I assume it's going to be Swagger going, "Oh, you couldn't beat me fairly." But actually it's Edge, and they have a little bit of repartee. Christian basically goes, "What happened to you, man?" And Edge goes, "John Cena happened," basically. And Christian's like, "One guy used to be fun." You know, it was just a good little thing. A nice bit of nostalgia. And I'm glad they finally did an on-air segment together, and that they can be seen in the same bracket, you know. Then we had Chris Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat. Steamboat is so good that I almost don't want to call him like an old guy wrestling, just, you know, just another competitor, I kind of feel. He did he took a page out of Jeff Hardy's playbook where he did the sort of drop kick with the ropes and then a crossbody. And Jeff did the exact same thing later. And I'm not going to lie and say Steamboat's was better, but it was good. Steamboat did his great arm drag, started working the arm. You know, this was a really good match. It made Jericho look good as well. He did the springboard drop kick. He did sort of step up enziguri. Then he went for the lion stall, and Steamboat put him in an electric chair position, which Y2J rolled through and put him in the walls of Jericho. And then the segment would have ended great. Steamboat tried a figure 4 leg lock to reverse it, but he didn't quite pull it off, and that would have been such a good moment. But that was the only bad thing about this match, really. Later on, Steamboat gets some momentum, hits the high crossbody, but Jericho kicks out. Jericho does the code breaker, takes a long time to cover, and Steamboat gets his foot on the bottom rope. Jericho goes for a scoop slam, and Steamboat reverses it into the small package, which of course the way he beat the Macho Man at WrestleMania, which I was glad to see, because they also did, when Jericho went for the Walls of Jericho at WrestleMania, they did the roll-up, which was kind of how he beat Flair for the NWA title. So I'm glad of those little moments of nostalgia. And then finally, Steamboat tapped out to the Walls of Jericho. Really good match. 2 good matches in a row now. I'm feeling really good about this pay-per-view. Then we had backstage Santino just talking about the Kiss Cam later. Forget about that. Then we had Kane Punk. This was another good match. Punk is a really good storyteller. He always has been. He was really good in that feud between him and Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor. You know, basically he comes up with different strategies to beat his opponent, which, you know, is kind of pointless because it's pro wrestling and, you know, the outcome is decided. It doesn't matter what your strategy is, but he adds that degree of authenticity by always coming up with a strategy. So his strategy was to work Kane's arm, basically, so Kane couldn't chokeslam him. So we get lots of sort of arm bars, and I think he tried the tarantula but didn't really work out. Kane tried a chokeslam on the outside, but Punk was able to get onto the ring apron and then did a clothesline. At the end of the match, Punk's doing some kicks. Kane's been working the back throughout this match, which I thought was, you know, quite interesting. The commentators covered it for quite well by saying that he was trying to torture Punk rather than, you know, working the back, which is like a technical wrestler move. But yeah, at the end of the match, Punk's doing a series of kicks, and eventually Kane catches one of the kicks and chokeslams him. Basically, what it is he does Vladimir Kozlov's finisher, the sort of chokeslam spinebuster, only he makes it look good. So yeah, that was the first time I've ever seen that look good. Then we had the I Quit match. Personally, I think their last 2 matches were actually quite good. I know a lot of people were probably expecting more from this feud. I wasn't. I don't rate either of them particularly much. I mean, I think Matt is awful, and I appreciate the risks Jeff takes, but I don't rate him. So I think they put on decent matches, but the feud is just boring because neither of them can, you know, do anything on the mic. Starts off, Jeff Hardy takes his usual chances. He goes for Whisper of the Wind, but Matt pushes him off. I think that's what happens. And then he sort of twists his ankle. Then we get Matt Hardy, the technical wrestler, working the leg, which was painful. You know, all the submission holds he knows, he had to do a figure 4 leg lock twice. The psychology was a little bit off here because they didn't really know what to do to make each other say I quit. Like, they went for submission style, but that's neither their forte, so then they went for sort of high flying, which doesn't work in an I quit match. Also, the commentators said you can't win an I quit match by the opponent passing out. WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart, Stone Cold. Was that 13? I think so. Yeah, but, you know, that's just clearly bullshit. Then we get a lot of... Jeff gets the momentum, basically. He does a twist of fate. He does about 3 twist of fates. One of them he just forgets to do and runs off. I didn't know what was going on there. Then he does 2 swantons. You know, that's not going to make anyone quit. Finally, we get some good psychology. Jeff puts Matt on the table, starts tying him up with rope and duct tape, and starts climbing a ladder. And the referee's asking Matt if he quits, and Matt's like, no, no, no. He tries to talk Jeff around. He says, we're brothers, our mother wouldn't like this, our dad wouldn't like this, etc., etc. We can be the Hardy Boys again, yay! And then eventually, him on a table, Jeff at the top of the ladder, he says, I quit, because he doesn't want it. And that was good psychology there. And Jeff went down and did the leg drop anyway, which we all wanted to see, because otherwise, you know, that would just be disappointing if he just walked down the ladder. Comments on this match. Matt looked a bit like a magician's assistant when he was getting tied up by Jeff. And Jeff screaming, no, no, into like a silent arena was just embarrassing. Anyway, switch over to part 2.